Okay, here's another debunk on this guy, Superiorita Nera, and he started this all off by making a video about me. I didn't even know, and somebody pointed it out to me. I believe it was one of my trolls, just trying to. Oh boy! And this is it right here, where he had a question, and that's where I'm actually doing a debunk on another video at the time that was talking about North Africa, and the guy's pretty accurate on what he talks about right then. But truth of the matter is, he tries to say, "Oh, it's always been that way," and there's a radical difference between the two. Whenever you take a look at his debunk video, if you ever do, you're going to see a weird, odd fact where he doesn't let a single sentence come out of my mouth without him getting in the middle of it and talking over. You can tell he has that black people thing where he can't even go the whole sentence. And he's got to start talking over the top of somebody, so it's kind of hilarious. And whenever he talks over the top, he has slow, broken English and bad grammar and things too. But you can see his IQ ooze through the whole idea. And he only had like 26 views whenever I first viewed it, but he's gotten his troll crew together now, finally going on him, and they're hopping on and start. Of course, they get to say all the crap that they couldn't say on my site without getting debunked and looking like a fool, and they hop around. Although I think a couple of my guys have found their site and decided to say some things to him, for there's some ones down here that have 25, 21, and 11 replies off all this. And here's his explanation. Egyptian art shows us a clear difference between Asiatic Caucasian features and Africans. But he's trying to insinuate that they're Negroids, and of course, it's African Caucasians, like the Libyans and everything, and so on. I'll get to that. This is going to be, pretty revealing what he tries to do. By the way, this is a different form of black lie, because this doesn't conform to anything that anybody else does. He has this special thing going on now, knowing that all that he's facing, he has to say from the earliest dynasties, they were all just getting Asiatic women and stuff. And so they would have made mulattoes and mulattoed them out of the situation totally, but he can't cognate that far. He's got to at least make his lie, and he uses it for this. And he calls this guy Pharaoh Ka. So we know that he doesn't know what the hell's going on at all. He spells Pharaoh wrong. He spells dynasties, like they're dinosaurs, and that they had natural blue eyes, and he's saying Negroids have natural blue eyes. So that's just the premise that he starts with, and let's get into this and see what he says.
Today is a characteristic of ancient Egypt that many indigenous North Africans and Negroes in ancient Egypt had. This is a picture of a pharaoh.
He had, and he couldn't actually say it. If you noticed right there, he was going to try to say that they had pale skin and blue eyes, and he couldn't say it and get it out of his mouth. So he goes, and so you're looking at a statue,
Ka,
Ka,
emperor of one of the first dynasties of Egypt, emperor of one of the first dynasties of Egypt.
Egypt.
This is a picture of Pharaoh Ka.
Pharaoh Ka. No, he's got that wrong. I mean, there's K, and there's a couple others that are similar, but no, a Ka statue is whenever they draw that black image that's the shadow of your former self. It's part of the Book of the Dead, or the Book of Coming Forth by Day, and it's actually symbolizes that, almost in that Peter Pan idea where you've got to find your shadow in the Book of Coming Forth by Day. They had this whole ritual situation he probably is not even aware of, and he's going to show a picture of it here shortly and not even know that that's what he's looking at whenever he does it. But this isn't Pharaoh Ka, this is Pharaoh Hor Aha, and it's from the second pharaoh of the first dynasty. So this would have been Menez's kid right here. Now there's some conjecture on who he is, for this statue, if I'm correct, was found in a 12th dynasty tomb. And they have these crystal eyes that they use like this all the way through to the 12th dynasty. Somewhat sporadically, but not all Caucasians keep blue eyes, but it might have been something they were even targeting, or perhaps it's something from way before. Yeah. So let's see, he called him Pharaoh Ka. There's this other picture right here that he definitely will not show in a minute because it would show that he has even more Caucasian features in this statue. By the way, this is a yew wood statue. Yew wood is a little lighter than pine, by the way. And blacks try to play it off whenever they do this, that Caucasians don't get cardboard dark as he, is right there, almost matching it pretty much right now, and I don't really get any sun. And once you pretend that this is a Negroid with his thin lips and his thin nose and his look like that guy that was on Friends, for Christ's sake, but let's just let him go. But he's going to try to pull off this statue too, which you can clearly, he won't zoom in on it because you can tell it has Caucasian features to it. And it's just like bronze statues and Greeks and everything that eventually over time turned. So they used to be a gold statue, bronze, but then they turned green, airy, black. And so they were black, and they're like, no, look, you can look at them, and they're not. Just like the Madonna that they've had now in the Vatican and everything, and they try to play up that too, like it has something to do, and blacks aren't in the Bible either. Let's let this guy go here and hang himself. He's called this Pharaoh Ka, and this is Hor Aha. We'll take a look at who he is in a minute.
An emperor of one of the first dynasties of Egypt.
So,
you all know him because Negrocentrics always claim that he is white.
no, he claimed that he's a Caucasian with blue eyes. So yeah, that fits him with the white people, if you'd say it. But we'd like to go with Caucasians because some people like to say white is only like Nordics and stuff. And while their genetics shows it is more Western European and Anatolian mix that comes into it, and that's where it shows up today more in anywhere that we can find that genetics. But also it shows the original people that came in that formed it are early European hunter-gatherers and farmers, along with Anatolian farmers, and we know the grains and everything come from there, and the cattle too, genetic wise, there in Sumer and around the whole Fertile Crescent. There was these people that started farming and got it going on, and of course this is in your Bible and the Tigris and Euphrates and everything, and none of this has to do with Negroids and West African primitives of the slave trade that are sub-Saharans over there. They didn't even know any of this existed, but they're trying to say we, along with the fact of trying to claim it, along with the fact that they don't even know the name of a pharaoh. He knows he's one of the earliest ones, but he misspeaks his name and calls him Ka.
Of course, he clearly isn't white. You can see the nose and the lips that are very Negro, or it.
He tries to claim that looks Negro. Yeah, that's funny.
Indigenous looking, indigenous North African looking. So this individual is not.
He says Negro are North African indigenous looking, which still puts it at Caucasian. Hell, the Negroes around that area have been so admixed from coming over, like Ethiopians and Somalians and everything. They have a Caucasian phenotype. So it's kind of sad that they pull this off because they don't even have a phenotype that matches this at all. They have a real prognostic jaw, bulbous forehead, exaggerated nose and lips and things and stuff. And they don't apparently want to have their history. They want to claim these Caucasian Egyptians. We'll get there in a second. Let's look.
African looking. So this individual is not. This pharaoh is not Caucasian. So
Yeah,
we can clearly see that.
You can clearly
we
see.
also can see other art about Pharaoh Ka.
And this isn't Pharaoh Ka. I don't know if you can make it out, but this is the Ka statue of Tutankhamun. We don't have very many of these Ka statues and things out of all of it, but this was in King Tuts. And actually, if you look at it, it kind of matches that facial thing that they did a reconstruction of the Caucasian. And they've done his DNA. There's no way around it. They try to say, oh, well, they messed up, or they, and all these things they try to hem and haw through to try to get somebody to believe that West African primitives even knew Egypt existed. But this is not the statue of Ka. That one right there is Hor Aha, Hor Aha, and this is the Ka statue of Tutankhamun. And I swear to you, it says moon right after that. Okay? So, it's terrible. And he's trying to get people to believe this. He's probably trying to get himself to believe it.
Shows us that some traits of the face. We can see also, where is it? Yeah. This one?
This one, that's a Shinga picture from Trinidad. What would that have to do with ancient Egyptians at all? It's a modern photograph from Trinidad. Here's another one right here. Shinga says it right here. Oh, this one's on live auction. The other one's apparently on the site. Chara something. What are you trying to put together? Wow, this guy, the logic sometimes, people.
And other pictures of the pharaoh Ka.
That is not Ka. That is the Shinga Ka for Trinidad. What's that got to do with? Oh, wow. Man, this is pathetic. Okay, go ahead. Keep going.
So yeah, you all know this picture because most Eurocentrics.
Eurocentrics. Oh, you mean Eurocentrics? People that think that Caucasians helped herald mankind, and there's other people involved, and India did their thing, but they helped them out some, and we know it, and China and things too. And then, of course, we've helped out Negroids to the tune of billions and helped bring them up through the pre-Stone Age level that they were in. And while we're doing that, they're going to try to claim Egypt, huh? Wow. Okay, so let's see a little more idiocy here.
Use this picture as saying that he is white, but as we know, he clearly isn't white. He was an African pharaoh, and at that time it was very common. Blue eyes were really common between North Africans and Negroes.
Negroes had blue eyes. Now, I swear to you, if you go and put in Egyptian blue eyes, what you'll see is some, let's do it. I do it too much, but let's do it here. If you put blue-eyed Egyptians in, you're going to see where black people have tried to find this special rare genetic thing. It's supposed to be 16 times more rare than albinisms for Negroids, and it's where they have a genetic eye defect and they get blue eyes. And in fact, it's a lot more common if they ever get the eye effect to really get more, instead of a brown eye, but a goldeny green gold eye, and it looks cool. I think it's cooler than the blue eye because it's not natural at all, whereas blue kind of somewhat looks natural. But it quite often can be pegged out of admix, but due to the way the genes work and how it gets smothered so easily by Negroid DNA, which doesn't contain it, and they talk about they're dominant and recessive all the time, ooh, so it smothers it up, so that's not in effect at all. So we're looking at these blue-eyed Egyptians, and while he was showing this Hor Aha statue that was right here at first, but here's a scribe from the earliest of the dynasties, and in the very start of Egypt, this is 4th, 5th, 6th, 8th, I don't think there's a 7th representative, all the way through the 12th dynasty here, and they all have blue eyes, like Mitre. Yeah, and so it's not even anything that's exclusive. Here's one. Looks like my dad. And then we can see the Caucasian phenotype along with the Sumerians with the same blue eye. They have them in Peru. Here's Nakata, pre-dynastic, before the Egyptians even got going, in that extreme Caucasian phenotype, even in a doll look. And blue eyes. Here's the crystal eyes of Egyptian blue statues, and you can look into the eyes of the very first dynasties of Caucasian Egyptians that heralded mankind and started it out. And it's disgusting Negroids try to pull this off. Hell, look at this. This is Nofret. Yeah, Nofret. Don't want to show any of these photos, though. They're too telling, because you can tell that. But what he tries to say in his video especially is, because he knows he's busted and it isn't going to work, is that, oh, they grabbed Asiatic blue-eyed women that, so you can see this we want your women type thing already still in effect, and so they'd make mulattoes and basically mulatto themselves into nothing. But he can't cognate past that point. And there's other ones too, this one here that's known, and so on. And then that when they look at their hair that they find on a lot of the mummies, because they have a lot of hair, none of them have Negroid hair. It's forms of Caucasian hair, whether it's slightly wavy, little bit curly, oh no, all the way to almost straight, but it always seems to have a little bit of curl to it. Famous ones too, like Ramses, and blonde and red-haired mummies, Thuya and Yuya, which are the grandparents of King Tut, and oh, where is it? Nefertiti, man, they threw a fit about her, and you can't begin. There's just next to King Tut, so that's pretty cool. And she has one blue eye left, and when they redid it, they threw this big old fit, and probably still do to this day, even though this has all gotten quite disgusting. So let's see if I can put in Hor Aha, because swear he's the second pharaoh. He's Menez's child, so this shows you it's doesn't have anything to do with that. Unless they're going to try to say that happened right off the bat and everything. It's real disgusting. So then they're left with some mulatto freakout thing, and that there was some at the very first and it went away. And it's like, no, they carried a blue eye trait. The genetics they recently checked from the middle dynasties from the center of Egypt that was used all the way through, all the way down, and they check it, and it seems like this Negroid DNA shows up, bam, at the very end, like slave trade and everything, way into the Roman age and like 300 AD, and so stronger pegged at 700 AD, and that just makes sense with the Islamic Moors and things, those Caucasians too, and I've done a video about that debunks this guy's what he tries to say about it. But let's see, let's look at Hor Aha, and while we're going to see a lot of his symbols and so on, what we really need to look at is probably just the wiki on him. Hor Aha, or Horus Aha, is considered the second pharaoh of the first dynasty of Egypt. Yep, others consider him to the first one and corresponding to Menez. And so they're saying this might be a conjunctive, or they've said that a weird thing that went on like in Sumeria where his son, and they tried to name him the same, and where his name was Menez, but they named him after his father whenever he started to take the line. So it's like, well, I'm Horus, now you're Horus too. Well, Hor Aha, and what is Aha? It means warrior type thing. So yeah, and he lived around the 31st century BC and is thought to have had a long reign, so it fits with their thing, and Manetho's variation of what happened and the other guys. So he's really made himself look pathetic because he doesn't even know who Hor Aha is. That's the name. It's not Ka. Ka is a Ka statue. There's the Ka and the Ba that go with the Book of the Dead or coming forth by day, and it's a shadow form. Yeah. Caucasians use symbology all kind of cool ways. What they never do is say, look at me, I'm a Negro. No, that's not it. No, but Negroes say that about Caucasians and try to say they're part of the Bible, part of Egypt, part of anything but West African primitives, and it exposes them quite well there.
It was more common at that time than today, but of course You can find people that have blue eyes, Negroes with blue eyes, or
Yeah, it's 16 times more rare than albinism or something, man. Without admix, it can only happen from a genetic defect, and you have to really pretty much be around 50-50 for it to even be a rare thing that shows up.
Eritreans, Ethiopians, or people of deep sub-Saharan Africa.
That's weird. You try to put those three together. The Ethiopians and stuff have a huge amount of Eurasian admix, and I've done a video about it, and 7 Phoenician 7 did, that went into the genetics now it connects and what everybody said. I just kind of wing it and tell you the same information, but sometimes I even just straightforward read forward the data that they give out, and they still say, "Oh, you don't know nothing." And it's like, I may have added a little bit there as I stop and talk in between paragraphs, but that's word for word what it says. I'm just adding to it, but not anything that should. I'm pretty much summarizing, because a lot of these things use critical thinking and a lot of terms that a lot of people aren't used to hearing and stuff, especially blacks. I mean, they're long words and things.
I know someone will say that Ethiopians and Eritreans are mixed with Caucasian, but yeah, they are mixed with Caucasian. They are not Caucasian, so.
Yeah, but they're mixed so bad they have a Caucasoid facial form now and everything, and of course that's now. That's not what was going on in ancient times, and they keep trying to play it off like, oh yeah, everything was going on in ancient times. We were lollygagging all over the place, and it's hilarious, and it exposes them again.
That's this the emperor the pharaoh Ka shows us that it was also a very common trait in.
The Pharaoh Ka shows us, along with all those blue-eyed statues I just showed with their Caucasian phenotype, and his alone too, that it has to do it. And the Pharaoh Ka doesn't exist. That's Hor Aha, son of Menez, or it might even been Menez himself, and had the long reign. And now you're taking a look at the first of dynasties and how Egypt started out, and they can't plug a Negroid into here somewhere and go, we were, there was, the 25th dynasty, and that's run by Cushites anyhow, so you really can't. But that's not you. You never even knew Egypt existed. That's Nilotics. That's way the hell over there. Yeah. Across a big desert. Yeah, never knew it existed.
It's unique. And let's see other art of Egyptian pharaohs. Yeah, we can distinguish in Egyptian art the Asiatics the Asiatics, Negroes, and Caucasians, and indigenous.
So he's going to say that because we see a couple of skin tones and nobody that looks like a Negro, you were to believe that the darker skin tone is the Negro, and if they have anybody light any shots, this is Asiatics, and it's all totally cool. Whenever they definitely, if he knows nothing about their literature or anything where they didn't allow this to happen, and apparently it went on for way through the dynasties, and that DNA that they did recently proves that they were trying to see admix whenever the Hyksos had come in, and then later Greeks and Romans and stuff, and they could tell it really had no inflection at all. And so it really exposes it. And though it is just in the middle area, that means basically from Delta up, they still didn't. And so all you can go is up farther than that and say there might have been some admix around Nubia, but due to the fact they hated them and called them vile Nubian troglodytes, there would be little to none of that. And so what does he go on and say?
North Africans. In this picture, for example, we can see that these two individuals and this pharaoh is clearly Negroid.
No, he's not, and he doesn't even know who he's looking at. This pharaoh on this guy, these coupled. This is King Tut, and off the back of his chair and shit, and he just doesn't know what the hell he's talking about.
In this other one, we can see that this woman is
Oh, watch him and haw around here. All this, he was going to try to go Negro, but now he says, well, that's too pale, and she doesn't even have the phenotype. So yeah, they got Asiatics around everywhere, and really all I can claim is the darker Egyptian men. It's just they're symbolically drawn with red ochre. Of course, they're darker than the women and stuff, and hell, I'm a good cardboard color and get as dark as the darkest picture that's on the screen right now, but
Yeah, I mean, it's probably or light skinned or native North Africans, like they look like in this
light-skinned native North Africans. They look light. The Egyptians.
other one we can see two Asiatic persons.
So he calls the two Egyptian goddesses that are helping in the ceremony of the weighing of the heart with the little Caucasian angel and the light one here with him shown in the red ochre symbology, and tries to claim that, oh, the Egyptian goddesses, like they keep showing Isis is pale and Neith and so on, and even the lion-headed goddesses over here, Sekhmet is looked at that way, and look how pale she is, and he's trying to claim this while he's going on. It's amazing if black people see this going on and actually go for this in any way, or aren't like, man, you're exposing us, stop it.
You can see the this is Egyptian art about architecture.
This isn't about architecture at all. This is a book of the dead. He's reading it down here, Egyptian art and architecture. He has no idea what he's looking at. He's trying to read what it says and then go, this is about this. And he doesn't even understand the weighing of the heart versus a feather. Yeah, and what goes on. And, oh, it's pathetic.
And gods of ancient Egypt. So we can really distinguish Anatolians from Negro people
We can really distinguish all these Caucasian Egyptians from any Negro type of people
in Egypt. So
in Egypt.
To claim this people is white, as I said in other videos of mine, it's completely stupid.
As I'm showing you every single one of his videos debunked, and actually he's stupid, and he's showing it right here too. This is, I mean, he can't even name the right pharaoh, doesn't know Pharaoh Tutankhamun, even though it says it up under it. Right here he tries to read that off and say that's what it is, and he doesn't send the symbology, and doesn't know who the women are even right there, are over here, but he don't want to click on that. You can see him hovering a second over there, and he goes, no, and I probably shouldn't pull it down or I'm going to screw up my video. But he's already exposed himself, and he thinks he's doing good. He thinks he's doing real good, guys.
That's not any logic. We can also see that
almost
that Anatolians appear probably around the New Kingdom, the era of the New Kingdom, and we can see some of them in the Old Kingdom, and
so he just said they show up then, but we see them then back old, so they must have showed up then. But I'm so confused, ping pong. I can't make cognate. No one's gonna believe me. Oh, but I believe myself. He's got that Dunning-Kruger syndrome where he thinks he's smart actually, and it's kind of pathetic. Hey, let's look at something. How far are we right now? 28. We should be able to do this easy. 7 Phoenician 7 has a video where she just compares, because what's important, yeah, that's Hor Aha, I think it's the other way. She just compares. Did I flip it? No. She compares the ancient Egyptian art and Greek art, and I can't let the music play, but so here we see on the Egyptian walls when people are bringing gifts to them, and while they had nobility bring it to them, and you would see them pale a lot of times, other times they would have regular people and they would be shown as tan in the same symbology, and it's the exact same color, for they only used 6 colors, and they only used black for Negroids, and the only Negroids around were Nubian troglodytes. They weren't even allowed in Believe it or not, most of this giving forth, they weren't doing it right to the king. For the Nubians had to stop in Icon. Yeah, the Simna Stele of Senjuret III explains clearly that they're not even allowed in Egypt whatsoever, downriver or anything, that they stop there and they can trade in Icon. And they've got a price out for their head too, which is really just the right hand, and to know that you've killed them and it's worth more than a dead one. And it says forever on that stele, though, and it reiterates on the 16th year whenever he's got children, and he says his kids will keep this up, or they are not children of mine, and everything. And he really goes off on vile Nubian troglodytes. This guy tried to do one on Super Egyptian, and it's funny. Super Egyptian has compiled what they have said through the dynasties about these vile Nubian troglodytes. Troglodytes means primitive, unaware cave dweller or hole dweller. So here we're seeing like Minoans and things, and you see this color that's in Minoan art also. Funny how that kind of matches. Okay, Minoan looks like Minoans, and we know they're Caucasian. And there it is. And there's Etruscans. And some can even be dark as hell. And that's one of the gods. And won't you look at that red ochre symbology and color that men have? Here they are fighting, wrestling. Wow, that one even had blue eyes. Look at that. And they're pale women, and red ochre men. And this is just one of hundreds I could show, but it's good enough. For what we're really talking about is whether or not these Greek and Etruscan type people actually have this same red ochre symbology. Sure, their women are pale, and so are the Egyptians, which he tried to pull off, and he called them Anatolian. So how the Egyptians depict themselves, and you can find ranges from lighter like this, which is Ramses, through all different types of coloration that might even get as dark as this. And so you can see that range of colors and the pale women that was right there. I'm going to stop this for a second, and workers get a whole lot darker, right? But so this color of men and pale women, wow, okay. And are they always pale? Not always. Some of the women were an active queen, and whenever you're in action, you definitely use the same coloration too. So, yeah, darker workers. And dark, that's kind of dark too, but that's a Caucasian phenotype and straight hair, and so is that. And all these pale women that are mourners and things that they show, and how do you get that different effect? And then scribes that are shown paler a little bit, and duck hunting people that are a little bit darker, and workers like this that are extremely dark. Well, does that match up to anything? And what about those paler sometimes Egyptians, and just variations on a theme? Well, does that match up to anything? How about a Greek art we were just looking at, and the darkest that we found, and the darkest women that we found, and everything, and they're still well within that threshold? What they don't have anything to do with is West African primitives that are trying to say this and make silly videos where they don't even know who they're talking about. What about the Etruscans? Even though they have pale women, look, that is strange. For you can even find Egyptians in the earlier dynasties that are lighter toned than that. Okay, so, what other people? How about that? Minoans. Yeah, and Libyans, sometimes pale, and nobles and things, but generally, and, well, they're all darker than the Egyptian. Well, this is Ramses, so it's one of the slighter, lighter versions of it, but it's just variations on a theme of art. This guy was trying to talk about Egyptian art. He probably doesn't know about it, or much, for he couldn't even recognize pharaohs. So those Etruscans, yeah, and the women are even lighter than that. And there's this range and the phenotype, and that's sure enough, yeah, okay, so So a lot of black people try to pull this off, but you can see the vile Asiatics there and what color they are in the Egyptian scribes and wrestlers, and this noble is red-headed. And this picture right here is telling. We're just looking now, but just that arm is just the same color as that vile Asiatic he's got in his hand. But what's that poking out the left? That's a Negro. How does that work? And somebody who's real dark, and the Egyptians have some dark. Oh, these have got to be the Negroids. Well, they don't have Negroid phenotype. It's Caucasian too. All of the mummies we've ever found have Caucasian hair and everything and phenotypes, but genetics now have proved it, and there's no connections to Negroids whatsoever. But wow, those Minoan gets it that dark, and Etruscan art gets that dark, and well, you can see there. So it looks like that whole idea is just kind of busted, and you won't be able to use this whole idea anymore. For this Egyptian here is red-headed. Hopefully that shows up right there, but I could go through the trouble of finding a whole bunch of workers on the wall that are tan as hell, but blonde-headed too. There's a lot of them. On famous pharaoh walls, Minoans, oh, same color. It's that red ochre symbology that Caucasians share that don't have anything to do with Negroids whatsoever, but they want to try to claim it. And this is 7 Phoenician 7 sun. During the summer he gets that tan, and he pretty much matches the darkest worker and on Egyptian walls. In fact, he looks a little darker than the Egyptian wall version, and of course a worker would be darker. It's that amazing adaptable melon that Caucasians share. And whenever you look at the phenotypes that they show of the Negroids, again, all different colors. And I wish this was up closer, for it shows a bunch of them bringing in gifts, but they would have been doing this at Icon. But the guy that's right there is actually much more pale, and so is the one right here. It's a famous picture that they have, and it shows you where they were paying homage and bowing down and bringing gold and things. But blacks in America don't have to be mad about that. It never happened to them. They didn't even know it existed. And let him finish by lying again once or twice.
In the Middle Kingdom, but as we know, Egypt was started or by indigenous North Africans or by Negroes.
It's indigenous North Africans, not Negroids. So you gave me the choice there, and I'm going to vote the other way with all the information we have right there, just simply as easily. And Negroids don't predate anybody, and there's no truth in this Negroid lie.
In the start of Egypt, there were not Caucasians.
In the south of Egypt, north of Egypt, they were all Caucasians. If you look up the definition of Caucasian race, which I'm not going to go through the trouble of doing in Wikipedia, it'll tell you all of North Africa through Egypt and even the Horn of Africa used to be Caucasians. Sure, there's some Ethiopians now, and look at all that admix, but that comes much later. Yeah, and people need to quit comparing, or Negroids need to quit trying to compare with, look right now. That's the way it was 5,000 years ago.
Caucasians arrived later in time.
No, you just said Caucasians arrived later in time. Now, I'm going to make you say that again as you do it, but you just said Caucasians started out the first of it, and all their women. And then you said it was Middle Kingdom, and there weren't any till Middle Kingdom. Then again, you had to say it was, oh, well, they had them in there earlier too. So you can't have it both ways. You can't have it anyway, by the way, but it's fun to watch you try and cognate and expose yourself.
Africans or by Negroes. In the start of Egypt, there were not Caucasians. Caucasians arrived later in time, probably during the Middle Kingdom.
Uh-huh.
And in the whole kingdom, in the northern part of the whole kingdom, there was always Anatolian people.
So now he's saying that a whole half of Egypt was always Caucasian Anatolian people, just not up in the north. Now he's trying to pull that. But the people up in the north didn't like their women. They always chose these pale women and everything to go with it. And their gods were all pale gods too. Like blacks in America worship the Bible and everything, and that comes from the Caucasians and their story. Hell, the Ark lands in the Caucasus Mountain area. So what we have here is a total disconnect and gripping onto other people's religion and cultures that they had nothing to do with, and you can see his brain fart constantly all the way through this.
As I said in the other video, the royal families used it to marry with Anatolians, and that
So he's going to try that. They used to marry with the Anatolian. They as like the white women that went over real good with the Egyptian queen. Yeah.
that can be proved, but a lot of pictures of monuments about pharaohs that they married Anatolian women. So thank you for the view, and I'll see you next time.
That was a shitty, uninformed, lying video with not much truth in it at all. The only half truth that you gave is whenever you lied and half told them and said that, yeah, there was Anatolians there in ancient times, but their genetics are showing that they hook up to Western Europeans and Anatolian early farmers well before anything and Scythians and Anglo-Saxons and all that happened, and Celts way before that. And those people got into Egypt along with the Natufians and formed Egypt. And the guys down on the Delta that weren't part of the Delta group are considered Libyans, and they were a little different, and that's Canaan. And then you have Phoenicians in the big ports, but in reality the Phoenicians called themselves Canaan. And so now we get an idea, and all North Africa was Caucasians, and I've shown the Moors and how they're very Caucasian also. So yeah, it's about it for this, where he tries to go, oh my God, there's blue eyes and I'm busted, so I'm going to make up lies and say there was Anatolians all along, and all their women were, and that blacks can get blue eyes, but just not anymore somehow. And we know for a fact genetics of blacks actually smother out those type of effects. So it's pathetic, just about every statement he did. And I'm going to continue to debunk every single word this guy tries to put out at all. Yeah. Don't want him to get too much views, though, and try to get popular off of the fact that I point him out, for it's him that tried to call me out. And this is the weakest debunk I've ever had to do out of all of them. So it shows you how pathetic he is. Like, share, and subscribe, guys, and enjoy. And we'll get on to another one. Peace.